Sam Hendrick here again from Bentley Systems, now to talk about our fifth video in the series on the import points VBA. It's an incredibly powerful VBA. In this one, we're going to be using the fifth method, which is points plus item types. So we're going to be placing points, zero length lines in our file, but we're also going to be attaching to it item type data. It's amazing. So behind me is the web page where you can go to get it. There'll be a link down below. Let's go ahead and get started. In this video, we're going to be using the import points VBA to read in Excel spreadsheet or CSV data and use that to place culvert locations and also attach item type information. So let's again look at what is our source. I'm going to bring my spreadsheet over. This is the data that we want to bring in, collected out in the field. So we have latitude, longitude. We also have item number, date inspected, we have post mile, all kinds of information. And you'll notice there's a column here for health assessment where there's a numeric value assigned to it. Now, I would take this Excel spreadsheet and I would save it as a CSV file because that is what the VBA is looking for. So let's move this out of the way. Next, we'll go to our Utilities tab, where I've modified the groups that are showing. I've added attributes so we can see that. Under macros, there's the VBA manager. That's how we're going to launch it. So we're going to click on that. We can see the import points there. We're going to go ahead and load it. This is the import points VBA. I'm going to go ahead and close VBA projects. In the upper left corner, we have the select source file. So we're going to go ahead and choose that CSV file, that data we just looked at. So I'm going to click on this. Now I've already done this, so it shows up on my history down here. So I'm going to choose from my history, click open, and there it is. When we were looking at the spreadsheet, the headers had names. It's always recommended that you put them in. It's not mandatory, but if you label the column header, the first row, with what the data is, when you import it, it can see that and bring it right over. You notice that we're doing longitude, latitude. This is set to longitude, latitude, so that's good. If we wanted to set it to X and Y, which we don't, but if we wanted to, there's the settings button here. The very first checkbox is import file has header row. Ours did, and it was able to read that. So again, always advise that you do that. We also have checked coordinates are in latitude, longitude. So we're good there too. If it wasn't X and Y, then we would change it. So we'd click done. So this is set. Next thing we need to do is choose what do we want to place or output to, as we say. So here of the choices, we're going to be doing a point, which is a dot, a zero length line, plus an item type. So I'm going to choose this. Now, what defines the level, color, and weight of the point that gets placed? Your active settings. So I've set my active level to, I created one called culverts, and I've got my color set to 6 and my weight is set to 10. So that's going to place in a fairly thick dot so we can see this. Because we chose point plus item, which means item type, we need to either choose an existing library or have it create one. So to the right, there's a button here that says select item. Now, before we do that, I want to show you that this file does not have any item types in it. If I bring up my item types dialog, you can see we have no item type library or item types in this file. So we're going to be creating them. So I'm going to click on the select item. The select item dialog appears. Now, again, if you had a library and an item type, you could choose from them. Most people won't have that for what they're going to be importing. So in this case, we're going to say create item types from source fields. So we click on that, comes up and it says, what do you want to call the library? We're going to call the library culverts. And then the item type, we're just going to call that health. Down below, you need to pick the item or the columns that you want to create item types for. Lat and long are not checked by design because we're using that to import the information and locate it. It's going to be placing it in a file that is X and Y. So if you want to also have as item type data, the longitude, latitude, you can have it create item type data that has the longitude and latitude. In our case, we don't need to, but we are going to scroll down to make sure we have everything selected. Didn't get the last two.
So I'm going to hold the control key down and add. I can also hold the control key down and remove if I wanted to. So now at this point, I'm good. I'm going to have it create. I have my library selected. It's called culverts, and my item type, which is called health. And these are all the properties of that item type. So I'm going to hit select item type, and you can see this gets populated on the right. Now, if I go and look at my item types dialog, I've again added this to my spacebar pop-up menu. You can see it got added right there in my health, and these are all my properties. You can do this dynamically. You don't have to know anything about item types and how to create or structure them. This tool does it for you. So I'm going to close that. Now we need to map this information here to the right. You can simply drag and drop if you want to, which makes it very flexible so you don't have to worry about the order that things are in. Or we can just click the automatic map fields. If your item type names and your source header information are the same, which our item types properties were created from the header information, so they should be identical. This makes it easy. We can just click the button. It automatically maps it. Now you notice elevation, it did its best guess and it put in health. We don't want that there, so we're just going to double click and that removes it. So now we've met all the requirements. Next thing to do is go ahead and place it. So we're going to click place, and you can see the points appear here on my screen. Now, if I go and look at the properties for a couple of these, you're going to see, and we'll actually just look at one. You can see there's my item. You can see I've got it selected down here, this tab, and there's my number, my date, there's my health and my health category. So all that information is right down there. So this is attached to each one of these points. Now, what can we do with that? We can label this. So I'm going to go to my place note tool. We're going to go ahead and close the import points. I'm going to hit the space bar. Again, I have modified my space bar, so I've added place note there. In this file, what I've done is I have created a favorite that I'm going to use. So I click here. I've created a favorite called culvert. To see how I did that, I'm going to go to manage. Now, I did this in the active file. This should ideally be done in a dglib, and an organization can then point everybody to it so that it makes it easy for everybody. So if I expand this, there's my name, there's my favorite, and you can see here what I did was I put in some text here. That's just typed in, and then I told it here to go and get information, item type information. So I would come down here, I would select item types, and then I'd go to health, and you can see I can select any one of these items. And now it's going to extract that from the point when I pick it. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to choose my favorite. I'm now going to place this in. You can see it places in the information there and extracts out the ID, the post mile, and the health. I pick the next one. Again, I'm just able to go right along and pick it and label it because it has that information as item type associated to the point. So that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and get out of this tool. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is how we can use the item type information to change the display of the elements on the screen. So I'm going to go to my view attributes, Control B, B for better viewing. I have two display rules that I've created in this file. One's called display rules off, and the other one is called culvert health. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Open Display Styles Dialog. I'm going to show you how this was created. So I'm going to go over here. Now I've created in the file I'm in. This could be something that could be in a dglib that would be available to everybody. So I'm going to choose this display style. To the right, this is new in MicroStation CONNECT Edition. It's called Display Rules. So I'm going to show you how we can create this because we don't have one. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to say Create New Display Style Rule Set. This dialog opens. It wants me to give it a name, so I'm just going to call this culvert. We can name it anything we want. To the right, we could add in new conditions one by one, or because what we're looking at in this example is a numeric range. So we have a range of numeric values, which is the health assessment. I'm going to use the generate. This is easy for that situation. Click here. At the top, it says, what property do you want to look at? There's my item type information. I'm going to scroll down, go to health assessment. It reads the information in the file. The lowest value is 21. The highest is 72. Now, what I want to do is assign a color to it based on those values and do a range. So I'm going to click the color option here. Now, it's assuming that 21 should be green, which 21 is poor health, 72 is good health. We want to reverse these. So I'm going to click the color square there. This brings up my color modifier. I'm going to make that red. I'm going to change this other one to green. Now you can see already down here, if I extend this out, you can see it's already giving color values based upon the ranges. It's only doing 5 in this case. I can have it do more if I want to. When I'm done, I hit generate at the bottom. You can see it automatically generates it. So I'm going to close this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this display style, and because I just created it and it associated that display rule, culvert, you can see now my culverts are colored based upon their health. So if I zoom out here, and if I turn this off, double click on this display style, you see everything returns back to its normal color. If I turn it on, now I can see this. I could have also turned on and off the display of these points based upon their information. So I could say, only show me the fair or the good. And so this is actually pretty cool to be able to do this. Importing is great. Using item types, also very powerful. The last thing we'll talk about is how can we generate a report on this information? So I'm going to close those dialogues out. Again, I've customized my pop-up menu. I'm going to go to reports. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new report. And we're going to call this culverts. I'm going to tell it what objects I want to look for. So in this case, we're going to tell it we want to look for our item type. We're going to look for health. Click OK. Now at this point, I can tell it which columns I want for that. I'm going to click here for columns. I can right click and add columns. And it, again, just looking for the information I told it to look for. And now I can come down here and I can generate basically columns on the properties that were brought in. So we'll just go down and select all of these and we'll click OK. And you can see all those properties were brought in. Now, just to get a quick display, I'm going to do a preview. And now you see each one of those items listed out here. And we also can basically aggregate or group these together so we can count how many poor and how many fair culverts we have. So, but this can then be brought out to an Excel spreadsheet if I wanted to, or since we already had that, that's what we imported, we could also come back and we could make this a table in MicroStation if we wanted to. So hopefully you're going to find the import points VBA extremely helpful, and you learned a little bit about item types, display rules, and reports. See you in the next video.